I, 31F, had not spoken to my parents in 5 years. The silence began on my wedding day. It was a beautiful day in October, the kind with crisp air and golden sunlight. Every detail was perfect, except for the 2 empty seats in the front row. My parents were not there. They had chosen to attend my sister Stella's 25th birthday party instead. It was not a surprise party. It was not a last-minute emergency. They had known my wedding date for over a year. Stella's birthday was, as it always is, on the same day every year. But this year, she had decided her 25th was a milestone that demanded a destination party in another state. And my parents, as always, had decided that Stella's wants were more important than my needs. The last conversation I had with my mother before the wedding was a tearful, angry phone call. She had begged me to move the date. "It's just not fair to Stella," she had cried. I remember standing in my kitchen, holding the phone so tightly my knuckles were white. I told her the venue was booked. The invitations were sent. Over 100 people were coming. I asked her, my voice shaking, how it was fair to me. She didn't have an answer. She just said they had to be there for Stella. It was her special day. So I got married without them. My husband, Mark, 33M, held my hand as I cried before walking down the aisle. His parents stepped in, treating me with a kindness I had rarely felt from my own. They walked me down the aisle together. They made a speech at the reception that filled the hollow space my father should have occupied. I built a new life, a happy one, with Mark. A life that did not include my parents or my sister. The silence was a wall I had built to protect myself. For 5 years, that wall stood strong. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something made me answer. "Clara?" a man's voice asked. It was hesitant, unfamiliar after so many years. It was my father. I almost hung up. My heart started pounding in my chest, a frantic, painful rhythm. I did not say anything. I just listened to the sound of his breathing. "Clara, are you there?" he asked again. "What do you want?" I said. My voice was cold. It was a stranger's voice. He sighed. It was a sound heavy with a weariness I did not recognize. "We need to talk to you. It's important." "We have not talked in 5 years," I replied. I can't imagine what could be so important now. There was a rustling sound, and then my mother's voice came on the line. Sharp and impatient as ever. "Clara, for once, just listen. This is not about you, it's about Stella." Of course it was. It was always about Stella. I felt a familiar wave of resignation wash over me, followed by a surge of anger. "What about Stella?" I asked, my tone flat. "She's sick, Clara," my mother said. Her voice cracked, a performance of emotion I no longer trusted. "She's very sick. Her kidneys are failing. She needs a transplant." I stayed silent. I walked over to my living room window and looked out at the quiet street. A kid was riding his bike on the sidewalk. Everything was normal, but my world had just tilted on its axis. "Did you hear me?" my mother pressed. "She needs a kidney. We've all been tested. Your father, me, we're not a match. You're our last hope." I took a deep breath. The air felt thin, like I couldn't get enough of it. 5 years of silence. 5 years of birthdays and holidays they never called for. 5 years of pretending I didn't exist. And now they were calling, not to apologize, not to reconnect, but to ask for a piece of my body for the daughter they had chosen over me. "You want one of my kidneys?" I said slowly, letting the words hang in the air. It was not a question. It was a statement of fact. A fact so absurd, so utterly audacious, that I almost laughed. "Yes," my mother said, her voice now pleading. "You're her sister. It's the only way. The doctor said family is the best chance." I thought about my wedding day. I thought about the empty chairs. I thought about the speech Mark's father gave, his voice thick with emotion as he called me the daughter he never had. I thought about the years of therapy it took to accept that my own parents' love was conditional. "I need to think about this," I said, my voice dangerously calm. Think about what? My mother shrieked. She could die, Clara. There is nothing to think about. Her panic felt distant, like it was happening to someone else. I felt a strange sense of clarity, a cold, hard resolve solidifying in my chest. They had made their choice 5 years ago. Now, it was my turn to make mine. I will call you back, I said, and before she could argue, I ended the call. I stood there for a long time, the phone still in my hand. The silence of my house was a comfort. It was a silence I had earned, a silence they had just shattered. I knew this was not just about a kidney. It was about everything. It was about the years of being second best, the years of being invisible. They had just handed me all the power, and I had no idea what I was going to do with it. Mark came home a few hours later to find me sitting in the dark. He did not even have to ask. He saw the look on my face and knew. He sat down next to me and took my hand. His presence was a warm, solid anchor in the storm that was raging inside me. They called, didn't they? He asked softly. I nodded, unable to speak. The words were caught in my throat, a tangled mess of anger and old, familiar pain. What did they want? He asked, his voice gentle. A kidney, I whispered. For Stella. Mark was silent for a moment. Then he squeezed my hand. Okay, he said. Just that one word. Okay. It meant, I am here with you. It meant, whatever you decide, I support you. It meant, we will face this together. They said I'm the last hope, I told him, the words coming out in a rush. They all got tested and they're not a match. They expect me to just show up and give her a piece of myself. After everything? He said. It was not a question. He knew. He had been there. He had held me while I cried over their rejection. He had helped me pack up every photo, every memento of a family that had discarded me. They think I should, I said. Mom started screaming at me when I said I needed to think about it. She said there was nothing to think about. Mark let out a short, bitter laugh. Of course she did. For them, it's simple. Stella needs something, so you must provide it. The last 5 years don't matter. Your feelings don't matter. He was right. That was exactly how they saw it. I was not a person to them. I was a resource, a backup plan. I leaned my head on his shoulder, the tears I had been holding back finally starting to fall. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. What am I going to do, Mark? I asked, my voice muffled by his shirt. First, he said, rubbing my back, we're going to get all the information. You don't owe them an answer tonight. You don't owe them anything at all, Clara. But if we're going to engage with this, we're going to do it on our terms. His logic was a lifeline. He was right. I couldn't make a decision based on a manipulative phone call. I needed facts. I needed to understand what was really happening. How do I do that? I asked. They'll just lie or twist everything. You don't have to talk to them, he said. You can call the hospital they mentioned. You can try to confirm the story. You're her sister. You have a right to know what's going on. The thought of taking control, of investigating their claims, felt empowering. It was a shift from being a passive victim of their demands to an active participant in the situation. And then what? I asked. And then, he said, his voice firm, you decide what you are willing to do, and what you are not. And whatever that is, I will be right here with you. If you want to tell them to get lost, I'll help you change your number. If you decide to get tested, I'll hold your hand through the whole thing. This is your decision, Clara. Nobody else's. I looked at him, my husband, my partner, my true family. The love and support in his eyes was the complete opposite of the demanding, conditional affection my parents offered. He saw me. He valued me. He had chosen me. And he kept choosing me every day. Okay, I said, my voice stronger now. Okay, let's get the facts. The next morning, I called the hospital my mother had mentioned. Getting information was harder than Mark had suggested. The receptionist was polite but firm, citing patient privacy laws. I couldn't just get a stranger's medical file. "I understand," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm her sister. My name is Clara Evans. Our parents just called me. I live out of state and I'm trying to coordinate travel and support. I just need to confirm that she is a patient there and on the transplant list." There was a pause. "Let me see what I can do," the woman said. She put me on hold. The tinny music played for what felt like an eternity. I paced my kitchen, twisting the phone cord around my finger. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, she came back on the line. "Ma'am, I can confirm that Stella Miller is a patient in our nephrology department. Due to privacy rules, I cannot give you any more details about her condition or status on any list. The family would need to authorize that." It was not much, but it was something. She was there. She was sick. At least that part was not a lie. That night, I called my Aunt Carol. She was my mother's younger sister. We were never close, but she was a notorious gossip and had a habit of trying to stay neutral in family disputes, which meant she talked to everyone. She was the only person from that side of the family who had sent me a Christmas card a few years ago. "Clara, what a surprise to hear from you," she said, her voice full of a forced cheerfulness. "Hi, Aunt Carol," I said. "I'm sorry to call out of the blue. I got a call from Mom and Dad." The cheerfulness in her voice vanished. "Oh dear," she said. "I was wondering when that would happen. It's about Stella, I assume." "Yes," I said. "They told me she needs a kidney." Aunt Carol sighed heavily. "It's true, the poor girl. Her system just gave out. It's been coming on for a while, apparently. She's been in and out of the hospital for the last year." A year. My parents had known for a year that she was seriously ill, and they had only called me now, when they were desperate. The thought sent another jolt of anger through me. "A year?" I repeated. "They told me it was sudden." "Well, you know your mother," Aunt Carol said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "She likes to frame things her way. Stella wasn't taking care of herself. Lots of partying, ignoring the doctor's advice. It all caught up with her. It's a real shame." This new information changed everything. This was not just a tragic twist of fate. It was, at least in part, a consequence of Stella's own actions. The same irresponsibility that led her to demand a destination birthday party on my wedding weekend had led her to this point. And my parents, who had enabled her her whole life, were now turning to me to clean up the mess. "So they knew this was a possibility for a long time," I said, thinking out loud. "Oh, yes," Aunt Carol confirmed. "They've been worried sick, trying to get her to change her ways. But you know Stella. She does what she wants. And your parents could never say no to her." We talked for a few more minutes. Aunt Carol filled me in on other family news, but my mind was stuck on what she had told me. Stella's illness was not a sudden tragedy. It was the predictable outcome of a lifetime of entitlement and carelessness, all sponsored by my parents. After I hung up, I sat with Mark and told him everything. He listened patiently, his expression growing more grim with each detail. "So they let her run herself into the ground," he said, shaking his head. "And now they expect you to fix it with a part of your body." "It seems so," I said quietly. "This makes it worse, Clara," he said. "It's not just about the wedding anymore. It's about a pattern of behavior that has been going on for years. They enabled her, they protected her from consequences, and now that there's a consequence they can't buy their way out of, they come to you." He was right. This was not a simple moral question of saving a life. It was a complex family drama, and I was being asked to play a role I had never signed up for. My phone rang again a few days later. It was my father. His voice was more strained this time. "Clara, have you thought about it?" he asked, skipping any pleasantries. "I've been doing some research," I said carefully. "I know she's been sick for a while." There was a sharp intake of breath on his end of the line. "Who told you that?" "Does it matter?" I asked. Is it true? He was silent for a long moment. She hasn't been feeling her best, he finally admitted. We were hoping it would get better. Hoping is not a medical strategy, Dad, I said, the coldness back in my voice. You knew she was getting worse, and you only called me when you ran out of other options. That's not fair, he said, his voice rising. We didn't want to worry you. You didn't want to worry me? I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You haven't spoken to me in 5 years. You didn't call for my birthday. You didn't call when Mark and I bought our first house. You didn't worry about me at all. Let's be honest. You didn't call me because you didn't need anything from me until now. The truth of my words hung between us, stark and ugly. He didn't deny it. He couldn't. What do you want from us, Clara? He asked, his voice soft and defeated. It was the first time he had ever asked me that question. It was always, what does Stella want? Or what do we need you to do? The shift was so unexpected it almost threw me off balance. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I can tell you this. I am not going to be bullied or guilt-tripped into making a life-altering medical decision. If you want my help, you are going to have to earn it. Earn it? What does that mean? He asked, bewildered. It means we're going to have a real conversation, I said. All of us. You, me, and Mom. And we're going to talk about the last 5 years. We're going to talk about my wedding. And until that happens, the answer is no. I could hear my mother in the background, her voice a shrill, angry buzz. What is she saying? Give me the phone. Clara, please, my father pleaded. Your mother is very upset. I'm sure she is, I said. She's used to getting her way, but that's not happening this time. You have my terms, a real conversation. You can call me back when you've decided to accept them. I hung up the phone, my hand trembling. I had never stood up to them like that before. I had always been the peacekeeper, the one who swallowed her hurt to avoid a fight. But that person was gone. She had disappeared 5 years ago, somewhere between an empty church pew and a silent telephone. In her place was a woman who was finally ready to fight for herself. A week went by with no word. The silence was heavy, filled with unspoken tension. I tried to go about my life, but the situation was a constant presence in the back of my mind. Mark was my rock. He encouraged me to stick to my boundaries. You did the right thing, he told me every night. They have to understand that there are consequences for their actions. During that week, I decided to take another step. I needed to talk to Stella. I had to hear it from her. I found her number through Aunt Carol and sent her a text message. Stella, it's Clara. I need to talk to you. She replied almost instantly. Clara? Oh my God. Dad said you might call. Can you talk now? I took a deep breath and dialed her number. Her voice was weak, thready. It was the voice of someone who was genuinely ill. A part of me, the part that was still her sister, felt a pang of sympathy. Hi, Stella, I said. Hi, she whispered. I can't believe you're calling. Mom and Dad told me what's going on, I said, getting straight to the point. I'm sorry to hear you're sick. It's bad, Clara, she said, and I could hear the real fear in her voice. The doctors say I don't have much time without a transplant. I know, I said. That's what they told me. We were silent for a moment. It was an awkward, heavy silence, filled with 5 years of things left unsaid. So, are you going to do it? She finally asked, her voice small. Are you going to get tested? Here it was. The question I had been dreading. The question that held the weight of our entire broken relationship. Before I even consider that, Stella, I said, my voice even and controlled. We need to talk about why we haven't spoken in 5 years. She sighed, a faint, tired sound. Clara, can we not do this now? I'm really not feeling well. No, I said firmly. We are doing this now. You are asking me to undergo major surgery. You are asking for a part of my body. You don't get to do that and pretend that everything is fine between us. It is not fine. I know, she whispered. I know it's not. Do you? I challenged. Do you have any idea how I felt on my wedding day? Watching everyone walk down the aisle knowing my own family chose to be at your birthday party instead? I'm sorry, she said, but it sounded automatic, rehearsed. It was a big birthday for me. I was turning 25. I couldn't believe it. Even now, facing her own mortality, she was still making excuses. The sympathy I had felt moments before evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard anger. A birthday, I said, my voice dripping with disbelief. You think a birthday is more important than a wedding? My wedding? I didn't think you'd be that mad, she said, her voice starting to whine. I thought you'd get over it. Get over it? I repeated, my voice rising. Get over my entire family abandoning me on the most important day of my life? There is no getting over that, Stella. That is a choice that you all made. A choice that showed me exactly where I stand in this family. Which is nowhere. That's not true, she protested weakly. It is true, I insisted. You have always been the priority. Your wants, your needs, your feelings. I was always an afterthought, and I am done being an afterthought. So here's the deal. I will not even think about getting tested until I get a real, genuine apology from you. And from Mom and Dad. An apology that acknowledges what you did and the pain it caused. She started to cry then. Soft, weak sobs. You're being so mean, Clara. I'm sick. And I am hurt, I retorted. I have been hurt for years. Being sick does not give you a free pass to treat people badly. It does not erase the past. So you can cry all you want, but my position is not changing. You want my help? You and Mom and Dad need to face what you did. I ended the call, my heart hammering against my ribs. The conversation had been draining, but it had also been clarifying. Her self-pity, her inability to take any real responsibility. It solidified my resolve. This was not about revenge. It was about self-respect. It was about demanding the basic decency I had been denied for my entire life. 2 days later, my father called again. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. We'll do it, he said. We'll have the conversation. Your mother has agreed. All of you? I asked. Stella too? No, he said. Stella is not well enough to travel. It will just be us. We can drive down this weekend. I hesitated. A meeting without Stella felt incomplete. She was at the center of all of this. But I also knew that pushing for everything at once might cause them to shut down completely. This was a start. Fine, I said. But Stella needs to be on the phone. A video call. She needs to be part of this. He sighed. I'll see what I can do. You'll do it, I corrected him. Or the meeting is off. This is not a negotiation. He was silent for a moment. Okay, Clara, he said finally. Okay, we'll arrange it. The days leading up to the weekend were a blur of anxiety. Mark was incredible. He took time off work to be there. He helped me clean the house, not because I cared what they thought, but because it gave me something to do. A way to channel my nervous energy. We planned what I would say, how I would handle their inevitable attempts at manipulation. Remember, he told me, holding my hands the morning they were due to arrive. You are in control. This is your house, your terms. Don't let them turn this into a pity party for themselves. When the doorbell rang, my stomach lurched. Mark squeezed my hand one last time before going to open the door. I stood in the living room, my arms crossed, a fortress of resolve. My parents looked older. The last 5 years had etched new lines on their faces. My father looked tired, defeated. My mother looked angry. Her jaw was set, her eyes hard. They walked into my house, a house they had never seen, and looked around with a critical air that set my teeth on edge. It's nice, my mother said, her tone implying the opposite. "We like it," I said flatly. "Please have a seat." They sat stiffly on the sofa, a wide space between them. Mark stood by my side, a silent, supportive presence. I had my laptop open on the coffee table, ready for the video call. "Let's get Stella on the line," I said, not wanting to waste any time on small talk. My father fumbled with his phone, his hands shaking slightly. A few moments later, Stella's face appeared on my laptop screen. She was in a hospital bed. She looked pale and small. Her eyes were puffy, as if she had been crying. "Okay," I said, taking a deep breath. "We're all here. Let's talk." My mother spoke first, her voice tight with resentment. "I still don't see why this is necessary. We should be talking about how to save Stella's life, not digging up the past." "The past is why we are in this situation," I said, my voice steady. "We can't move forward until we deal with it. I need to understand why you chose to miss my wedding." "We've been over this," my mother snapped. "It was Stella's 25th birthday. It was a big deal. We had already made plans." "You had a year's notice for my wedding," I countered. "You could have changed your plans. Stella could have had her party any other weekend. She chose that date, and you chose to go along with it." "She was so excited," my father mumbled, looking at the floor. "We didn't want to disappoint her." "But you were willing to disappoint me," I said, the words sharp as glass. "You were willing to break my heart? Do you have any idea what that day was like for me? Do you know what it's like to have everyone you know ask where your parents are on your wedding day? Do you know what it's like to have your husband's father give the speech that your own father should have given?" My father flinched. My mother just stared at me, her expression unyielding. "It was just one day, Clara," she said dismissively. "You're being dramatic." "One day?" I exclaimed, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "It was my wedding day. A day you can never get back. A day you chose to deliberately miss. And it wasn't just about missing it. It was about sending a message. The message was that I do not matter." On the screen, Stella started to cry again. "I'm sorry, Clara," she sobbed. "I was selfish. I just wanted everyone to celebrate with me." "You're always selfish, Stella," I said, my gaze fixed on her face on the screen. "And they always let you be. That's the problem." I turned back to my parents. "I want an apology. A real one. Not, 'I'm sorry you felt hurt.' I want, 'I'm sorry for what I did.' I want you to acknowledge that you made a terrible choice, that you were wrong and that you hurt me deeply." My mother crossed her arms. "This is ridiculous. You're holding your sister's life hostage over a 5-year-old grudge." "This is not a grudge," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "This is a wound that you inflicted and never bothered to treat. And yes, I am holding her life in my hands because you put it there. You are the ones who made me the court of last resort. So you will play by my rules." I saw something flicker in my father's eyes, a glimmer of understanding. Or maybe it was just fear. "She's right, Helen," he said quietly to my mother. "We were wrong." My mother turned on him, her eyes blazing. "Don't you dare take her side." "It's not about sides," he said, his voice gaining a little strength. "It's about the truth. We should have been there. There's no excuse. I am sorry, Clara. I am so sorry I wasn't there to walk you down the aisle. It is my biggest regret." Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them away. One apology was not enough. Not after all this time. "And you, Mom?" I asked, turning to her. She stared at me, her jaw clenched. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating. On the screen, Stella was openly weeping. "Say it, Mom," Stella begged. "Please just say you're sorry." My mother looked from me to the laptop screen and back again. She was trapped. I could see the war in her eyes, her pride battling her desperation. Finally, she let out a sharp, angry breath. "Fine," she spat, the word full of venom. I'm sorry we missed your wedding. Are you happy now? It was the most insincere apology I had ever heard. It was a concession, not an admission of guilt. It was worthless, but it was also a crack in her armor. No, I said calmly. I'm not happy. An apology you're forced to give means nothing, but it's a start. I leaned back, feeling a sliver of the power dynamic shift in my favor. They had given in to my first demand. They had come to my house on my terms and had this conversation. They were starting to understand that I was not the same person they had walked away from 5 years ago. So what now? My father asked, his voice hopeful. Will you get tested? I looked at him, then at my mother's furious face, then at Stella's tear-streaked image on the screen. They thought this was it. They thought a forced, half-hearted apology was the price of a kidney. They had no idea how wrong they were. This was just the first step, I said, my voice cold as ice. We are not done yet. Not even close. Before they could react, I closed the laptop, cutting off Stella's feed. I stood up. I think this meeting is over for today. You know how to reach me when you're ready for the next step. I walked out of the room and went upstairs to my bedroom, leaving Mark to show them out. I could hear their confused, angry voices drifting up the stairs. I closed my bedroom door and leaned against it, my body trembling with adrenaline. I had done it. I had faced them and I hadn't backed down. But this was just the beginning. The real battle was yet to come. Later that evening, after my parents had left, Mark brought me a cup of tea. I was sitting by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. You were amazing, he said, sitting beside me. I've never been more proud of you. I was so scared, I admitted. My hands were shaking the whole time. They couldn't see that, he said. All they saw was a strong, confident woman who was not going to be pushed around. You had all the power in that room, Clara. It didn't feel like it, I sighed. Mom's apology was a joke. She hates me more than ever now. Let her, he said. Her feelings are not your problem. You set a boundary, and for the first time in their lives, they were forced to respect it. That's a huge victory. He was right. It was a victory, even if it was a small one. But it wasn't enough. Their hollow words had not healed the wound. They had just picked at the scab. So what's the next step? He asked gently. I had been thinking about that all afternoon. An apology was not enough. Words were cheap. I needed something more. I needed them to understand the consequences of their choices in a way they couldn't ignore. I need to find out more about that party, I said, an idea starting to form in my mind. Stella's 25th birthday party, the one they chose over our wedding. What for? Mark asked, confused. You know what happened. They went, they celebrated. What more is there to know? I don't know, I said. But I have a feeling there's more to the story. Mom was so defensive. It wasn't just about disappointing Stella. It was something else. I need to know what it was. The next day, I started my search. It felt strange, like being a detective in my own life. I started with social media. I went back 5 years on my sister's and my parents' profiles. They hadn't posted much about the party, which I found odd. Stella loved to show off. There were a few pictures of her on a beach, holding a drink, but nothing from the party itself. Then I remembered my cousin Leo. He was a few years younger than me. He had always been a bit of an outcast in the family, a quiet, artsy kid who didn't fit in with the loud, boisterous relatives. I remembered seeing his name on the guest list for my wedding. He had sent his regrets, saying he had a prior family commitment. At the time, I had assumed it was just an excuse. Now I realized he must have been at Stella's party. I hadn't spoken to Leo in years, but I found him on social media. I sent him a message, my heart pounding. Hi, Leo, it's your cousin Clara. I know this is random, but I was wondering if you remember Stella's 25th birthday party 5 years ago. The one in Florida. He replied a few hours later. Clara. Wow. Yeah, I remember it. Hard to forget. Why do you ask? His response was intriguing, hard to forget. What did that mean? I'm just trying to piece some things together, I wrote back. I know it was the same weekend as my wedding. I was just curious about what it was like. There was a long pause before he replied. Can we talk on the phone? It's easier than texting. My stomach twisted with a mixture of dread and anticipation. I sent him my number. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Hey, Clara, he said. His voice was deeper than I remembered. Hi, Leo. Thanks for calling me back, I said. No problem, he said. Listen, I felt bad about that weekend for years. I wanted to go to your wedding. I really did. But my parents insisted we had to go to Stella's thing. You know how it is. A command performance. I know exactly how it is, I said wryly. Yeah, he said. So, the party, it was a lot. Your parents rented this huge beach house. There was a ton of food, a live band. Stella was in her element, of course, the center of attention. Of course, I echoed. He hesitated for a moment. Look, I don't want to cause trouble. Leo, I interrupted. My parents just came back into my life after 5 years of silence to ask me for a kidney for Stella. I think we're past the point of causing trouble. I need to know what happened at that party. I have a feeling it was more than just a celebration. He let out a long breath. You're right. It was. There was this moment during the speeches. Your dad got up to make a toast. He was pretty drunk. Everyone was. My blood ran cold. What did he say? He talked about how proud he was of Stella, Leo said, his voice low. And then he said something like, we're so happy to be here with the daughter who knows what's important. The daughter who puts family first. And everyone cheered. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. It was worse than I could have imagined. It wasn't just that they had chosen her party over my wedding. It was that they had used the occasion to publicly praise her for it and to publicly condemn me. He said that? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Yeah, Leo said. And your mom was right there next to him, beaming. She raised her glass and said, to Stella. It was really uncomfortable. I remember looking at my mom, and even she looked shocked. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. They hadn't just abandoned me. They had celebrated it. They had toasted to it. They had turned my pain into a punchline at their party. Is that all? I asked, my voice trembling with a rage so profound it felt like it could swallow me whole. There's more, he said, his voice full of apology. Someone had made a sign, a big banner. It said, Happy 25th, Stella. Some parties are just more important than others. And they took a picture. Stella and your parents standing under the banner, all of them laughing. I couldn't breathe. The air was gone from my lungs. A banner. A public, humiliating declaration of their choice. The cold, hard resolve I had felt before was now molten lava, burning through my veins. Leo, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Do you have a picture of that? Or a video of the toast? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Clara, I don't know. Leo? Please, I begged, all pretense of composure gone. They are trying to manipulate me. They are telling me they made a mistake, that they regret it. But that is not a mistake. That is a deliberate act of cruelty. I need proof, please. He sighed. I might. I took a lot of videos that weekend. I was into filmmaking back then. Let me look through my old hard drives. I can't promise anything, but I'll look. Thank you, Leo, I said, my voice thick with unshed tears. Thank you. After I hung up, I told Mark what Leo had said. He was speechless. He just held me as I finally let the tears fall, hot tears of fury and betrayal. The emptiness I had felt on my wedding day was nothing compared to this. This was a deeper, more vicious wound. This was proof that their actions were not born of thoughtlessness, but of malice. 2 days later, I got an email from Leo. The subject line was just my name. There was no text in the body of the email, just a single video file attached. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely click the mouse. I downloaded the file and opened it. The video was shaky, obviously filmed on a handheld camera, but the quality was clear enough. It was a wide shot of the party. I could see my parents and Stella standing on a makeshift stage. My father was holding a microphone, his face flushed. I heard his voice, slurred but clear, saying the words Leo had quoted. "To the daughter who knows what's important, who puts family first." I saw my mother, beaming with pride, raising her glass. I saw the crowd of relatives and friends cheering, and then the camera panned to the side, and I saw it. The banner. "Happy 25th, Stella." Some parties are just more important than others. And there they were, my family, posing for a picture underneath it, their faces full of glee. I watched the video 3 times, each time feeling a fresh wave of nausea. This was it. This was the key. This was the undeniable proof of their contempt for me. This changed everything. My mother's forced apology, my father's supposed regret. It was all a lie. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they got caught. They were sorry they needed me now. I saved the video to my desktop. I saved it to a flash drive. I uploaded it to a private cloud server. I was not going to lose this. This was my leverage. This was my truth. That evening, I called my father. "Clara," he said, his voice wary. "I was hoping you'd call. Have you made a decision?" "Oh, yes," I said, my voice calm and serene. "I've made a decision. I've decided that we need to have another meeting. This weekend, at my house again. And this time, Stella needs to be there in person." "What? That's impossible," he sputtered. "She's in the hospital. She can't travel." "Then you'll have to arrange for a medical transport," I said coolly. "I don't care how you do it. I don't care what it costs. But she will be here, or all deals are off. And I mean it this time. If she is not in my living room on Saturday at noon, I will block your numbers and you will never hear from me again." "Clara, what is this about?" he demanded. "Why are you doing this?" "Let's just say I've come across some new information," I said, letting the threat hang in the air. "Information that I think you will all find very interesting. Saturday at noon. Don't be late." I hung up, my heart pounding with a fierce, triumphant beat. The game had changed. I had the power now. All of it. And I was going to use it. The week leading up to the second meeting was the longest of my life. My parents didn't call back to argue. They just sent a single text message. "We will be there." The silence was more telling than any protest. They were scared. They knew I had something on them. They just didn't know what it was yet. Mark and I prepared for the confrontation like it was a legal battle. We set up a large monitor in the living room, connected to my laptop. I had the video file ready to play. I wrote down my demands, clear and non-negotiable. I was not asking for an apology this time. I was past that. I was demanding reparations. On Saturday morning, a private ambulance pulled up in front of my house. I watched from the window as 2 paramedics helped Stella out. She was in a wheelchair, an IV pole attached to the side. She looked frail and terrified. My parents followed behind her, their faces grim. My father wouldn't meet my gaze. My mother looked at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. Mark let them in. The paramedics wheeled Stella into the living room and positioned her next to the sofa where my parents sat. The air was thick with tension. No one spoke. I stood before them, Mark by my side. I felt a strange calm settle over me. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, righteous anger. "Thank you for coming," I said, my voice even. "And for bringing Stella. It's important that we are all here for this." "Just get on with it, Clara," my mother snapped. "What is this all about? What is this new information?" I didn't answer her. Instead, I picked up the remote and turned on the monitor. The screen came to life, showing my desktop. I moved the cursor over the video file. A few days ago, I began, my voice clear and strong. I was feeling nostalgic. I started thinking about the past. Specifically about a certain party that happened 5 years ago. A party that was apparently more important than my wedding. I saw a flicker of panic in my father's eyes. My mother's face went pale. Stella just looked confused. I was curious, I continued, so I did a little digging, and I found this. A little home movie from the festivities. I thought we could all watch it together. For old time's sake. I clicked play. The shaky video filled the screen. The sounds of the party, the music, the laughter, filled my quiet living room. I watched their faces as they watched themselves. I saw my father's drunken toast. I saw his words land, saw the dawning horror on Stella's face, the flash of fury on my mother's. And then, the camera panned to the banner. Some parties are just more important than others. I paused the video on a close-up of the three of them, smiling, laughing, posing under that hateful sign. The image was frozen on the screen, a monument to their cruelty. The silence in the room was absolute. It was a heavy, suffocating silence, broken only by a small, choked sob from Stella. "Where did you get that?" my father whispered, his voice hoarse. "Does it matter?" I replied, turning to face them. "It's the truth, isn't it? This is what you were doing while I was getting married. You weren't just missing my wedding. You were mocking it. You were celebrating my absence. You were toasting to the fact that you had hurt me." My mother found her voice first. It was a venomous hiss. "You have no right." "No right?" I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "I have every right. You came to me, remember? You asked me for a piece of my body. You sat in this very room last week and you lied to my face. You said you were sorry. You said you regretted it, but you didn't regret doing it. You only regretted that it might have consequences." I walked over to the coffee table and picked up a piece of paper. "So, the price has gone up. Apologies are no longer sufficient." I looked directly at my father. "When I was a child, you set up a college fund for me. You told me it was my future. But when I was in college, the money was always tight. You said the fund had underperformed? That was a lie, wasn't it? Aunt Carol told me you used a large portion of it to pay for Stella's extravagant Sweet 16 party, and then again for her graduation trip to Europe." My father's face crumpled. He looked 100 years old. "I want that money back," I said, my voice hard as steel. "All of it. $100,000. With 5 years of interest. It will be transferred into my bank account by the end of next week." My mother gasped. "That's extortion." "No," I corrected her. "That is restitution. It is the price for your lies." I then turned to my mother. "And you? You value your social standing above all else. Your reputation as the perfect mother, the perfect family. This video would be very damaging to that reputation, don't you think? I have a list of about 50 of your closest friends and community leaders. I'm sure they would be fascinated to see this." She stared at me, her eyes wide with terror. "So here is your task," I continued. "You will write a public apology. Not to me. To everyone. You will post it on your social media page. You will detail exactly what you did. You will mention the party, the toast, and the banner. You will state that you chose to celebrate hurting your daughter. I have written the text for you. You will post it verbatim." I held up the paper. "And Stella," I said, my gaze softening slightly as I looked at my sister, who was now openly weeping, her frail body shaking. "Your task is the simplest. You will get better. You will take this second chance if you get it, and you will live a life that is worthy of the sacrifice. You will stop being a child, and you will start being a responsible adult." I put the paper down on the table. "Those are my terms. The money is transferred. The apology is posted. And then, and only then, will I make an appointment to get tested. Do you understand? No one spoke. The only sound was Stella's ragged breathing. My father stared at the floor, a broken man. My mother was shaking with a rage so profound it seemed to vibrate in the air. "You're a monster," she whispered. "No," I said calmly. "I am a mirror. I am just showing you what you are. You made me this way. You taught me that love is a transaction. You taught me that family is a weapon. I'm just a very good student." I looked at them, the three people who were supposed to be my family, and I felt nothing. The pain was gone. The anger was gone. All that was left was a vast, empty space. "You have 1 week," I said. "The clock is ticking." I turned and walked out of the room, leaving them with the frozen image of their betrayal on the screen. The ball was in their court, but I knew they had no choice but to play. The desperate always do. The next few days were a strange, surreal waiting game. I didn't hear from them directly. The first sign that they were complying with my demands came from Mark. He was checking our bank account online when he suddenly let out a low whistle. "You're not going to believe this," he said, turning his laptop toward me. I looked at the screen. There it was. A wire transfer from my father's investment account. $120,000. The full amount, plus a generous calculation of interest. The money I was supposed to have had for my education, for my future. It was finally mine. I stared at the number, but I didn't feel joy. I felt a grim, hollow sense of justice. It was not a gift. It was a debt, finally paid. "He did it," I whispered. "He did it," Mark confirmed, wrapping his arm around me. "Step 1 is complete." The second sign came 2 days later. My friend Amy, who I had told about the situation, sent me a text message with a screenshot attached. "OMG, you need to see this." I opened the image. It was a screenshot of my mother's Facebook page. And there it was. The post. My words published for all her friends and family to see. To all my friends and family, it began. "I am writing this to make a public and long overdue apology. 5 years ago, my husband and I made a terrible decision. We chose to skip our daughter Clara's wedding to attend our other daughter Stella's 25th birthday party. This was not just a scheduling conflict. It was a deliberate choice that we knew would cause Clara immense pain. At the party, we celebrated this choice. My husband made a toast praising Stella for putting family first, implying that Clara had not. We posed for a picture under a banner that read, 'Some parties are just more important than others.' Our actions were cruel, inexcusable, and a profound betrayal of our daughter. We deeply regret the pain we caused and the public nature of our humiliation of her. We are sharing this now to take full responsibility for our actions, which we have hidden from for too long." It was all there. Every single word I had written. I clicked over to my mother's actual page. The post was real. And the comments were a flood of shock, confusion, and condemnation. "Helen, is this real? Did your account get hacked?" one of her friends wrote. "I can't believe you would do something like that." "I was at that wedding. I wondered where you were," wrote a distant relative. "This is horrifying. Your poor daughter," wrote another. My mother's carefully curated image of the perfect matriarch was shattering in real time. The social shame she had always feared was now a reality, broadcast to her entire social circle. It was a brutal public reckoning. I felt a cold satisfaction watching the fallout, but it was tinged with a strange sadness. This was what it had taken. Not love, not remorse, but the threat of public humiliation. That evening, my father called. His voice was a ghost of what it used to be. "We've done it," he said, his voice flat and empty. "We did everything you asked. The money is in your account. The post is up. Your mother, she hasn't left her room in 2 days." "That is not my concern," I said, my voice equally devoid of emotion. "I know," he said. "So, what now?" Now, I said, I will make an appointment to get tested. I will let you know the date. Thank you, Clara, he whispered. Thank you. I hung up without another word. I had kept my end of the bargain. I called the transplant center the next day and scheduled the initial screening. The process was long and involved. There were blood tests, tissue typing, psychological evaluations. It took weeks. Throughout it all, I kept my family at a distance. My father would text me occasionally, asking for updates. I would reply with short, clinical answers. Testing is ongoing. I will have results in 2 weeks. Mark came with me to every appointment. He held my hand during the blood draws. He sat with me during the long waits. He was my constant, my reality check in this bizarre ordeal. Are you sure about this? He asked me one day as we were driving home from the hospital. Even if you're a match, you don't have to do it. You've already won. You've gotten your justice. I know, I said, looking out the window. I haven't decided yet. I need to know if I'm a match first. I need to have the choice in my hands. The real choice. Finally, the day came. My transplant coordinator called me. Clara, she said, her voice warm and professional. We have your results. You're a perfect match. A 1 in a million match, actually. It's the best possible outcome for a successful transplant. A perfect match. The words hung in the air. I had the power to save my sister's life. The power to give her a future. The power my parents were so desperate for me to use. Thank you for letting me know, I said calmly. I need some time to process this. I will be in touch to schedule the next steps. I hung up the phone and sat in silence. A perfect match. It was almost poetic in its cruelty. After a lifetime of being treated as a mismatch for this family, I was now the only one who fit. I thought about Stella, frail and sick in a hospital bed. I thought about the life she could have if I went through with the surgery. But then I thought about the banner. I thought about the toast. I thought about the 5 years of silence. I thought about my mother's hate-filled apology and my father's spineless compliance. Their actions were not born of remorse. They were born of desperation. They hadn't changed. They had just been cornered. If Stella hadn't gotten sick, they would have happily gone the rest of their lives without ever speaking to me again. They didn't want me. They wanted my kidney. My decision when it came felt clear and simple. It was not born of anger or a desire for revenge. It was born of a deep, profound, and hard-won sense of self-worth. I did not call them. I had my lawyer draft a letter. It was sent via courier to my father's house. It was short and to the point. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Miller, this letter is to inform you of my client, Clara Evans' decision regarding the potential kidney donation for your daughter, Stella Miller. After undergoing the necessary medical evaluations, it has been determined that Ms. Evans is a viable match. However, after careful and thorough consideration, Ms. Evans has decided that she will not be proceeding with the donation surgery. This decision is final and non-negotiable. She wishes Ms. Miller the best in finding a suitable donor through the National Transplant Registry. Please direct any future correspondence to my office. My client will not be communicating with you further. Sincerely, lawyer's name. The day the letter was delivered, my phone exploded with calls from my parents, from unknown numbers, from Aunt Carol. I didn't answer. I had already changed my number. Mark and I packed a bag and went away for a week to a small cabin in the mountains where there was no cell service. We hiked, we read by the fire, we talked about our future. A future that was finally, truly free of the ghosts of my past. When we came back, there was a letter waiting for me. It was from Aunt Carol. Clara, it read. I don't know if you'll even read this. Your parents are a mess. Stella has been moved up the national list, but the doctors aren't optimistic about finding a match in time. Your mother blames you for everything. Your father just seems broken. I don't understand why you did it, why you gave them hope just to take it away. I know they hurt you, but this seems cruel. I folded the letter and put it away. Maybe it was cruel. but my own family had taught me cruelty. They had taught me that sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to build a wall so high that no one can ever hurt you again. They had chosen Stella's party over my wedding. They had made their choice. I had simply made mine. I chose myself. I chose my peace. I chose my happy, quiet life with my husband. I never heard what happened to Stella. I never asked. My new life, the one I had built on the ashes of my old one, was too precious to poison with their drama. The money they had given me went into a trust for my own future children, a promise that they would never have to question their worth. My parents had spent a lifetime making me feel small. They had made me feel like an afterthought, a spare part. But in the end, they were the ones who were left with nothing. They had 2 daughters, and they had managed to lose them both, one to their neglect and the other to their worship. They finally learned what it costs to lose a daughter. It was a lesson I had learned 5 years before, on a beautiful October day, in a church with 2 empty seats in the front row, and I had never forgotten it.